Wedding planning should feel personal, not automated. Simply Eloped has planned over 14,000 one-of-a-kind mini-moons, vow renewals, and elopements in 37 destinations across the U.S., customizing every detail so no two are alike. In a world full of algorithms, real people handle everything with personalized care. You bring your marriage license, and they handle the rest. Create your kind of wedding at simplyeloped.com. Today on CityCast Nashville, if you have ever wanted to volunteer and make a real difference supporting our unhoused neighbors, we've got a great opportunity for you. Winter canvassing with Open Table Nashville is one of the most direct ways to show up. And Kelly Chien is here to walk us through what you need to know to help care for Nashville's most vulnerable neighbors during these colder months. Plus, the best ways to help on your own. It's Monday, December 22nd. I'm your host, Marie Cecile Anderson, and this is what Nashville's talking about. How would you describe the way Nashville treats and interacts with people experiencing homelessness on a daily basis?
Oh, we're starting with a heavy hitter, but that's okay. That's good. There is a lot more that I would like to see and that we could be doing in Nashville. And I will also say I don't necessarily think that's only specific to Nashville, to be fair. But I think, every city across the country, we could and should be doing more, not only from like a policy standpoint, but I think just also there are things that we could just not be doing, right? Like we could not be targeting people experiencing homelessness, moving them along, whether that is, MMPD, state troopers, the Nashville Downtown Partnership ambassadors. And I think we've kind of, again, not just Nashville, but we've kind of gotten to a place in our society where, people experiencing homelessness, we just see as a problem that we don't want to deal with and see. Because, it is not just about people's housing status. It's about much more than that, deeper societal issues and how we determine who has value and who doesn't. And so, yeah, I think we could be investing more. I think we could be strengthening partnerships. I think we could be listening more to people who are experiencing homelessness and also experts. Like there is a lot of evidence-based information out there that oftentimes we are not listening to in the interest of expediency or in the interest of, well, this is just easier and cheaper. And so I think we have a long way to go. There's a lot of people doing really good work in this city, but we have a very long way to go.
You are one of the people who are doing very good work here.
Well, thank you.
I do want to clarify, so it is a felony in Tennessee to sleep outside.
It is. It is.
It is.
We have, and this may have changed over the past year, like other states may have caught up to us, so to speak, but Tennessee was the state, and I think still is, with the harshest felony anti-camping law. It is a Class E felony. And, not every law enforcement agency necessarily enforces that. I am not aware of MMPD enforcing that, but we did have 10 or 11 felony arrests last fall by off-duty state troopers working for Solarian. So yeah, that was 10 or 11 people who were charged with felonies for simply existing outside downtown.
And that's the private security.
Yes.
That's monitoring downtown.
Yes, that is a private security company hired by the Nashville Downtown Partnership.
Well, let's get into Open Table. A huge part of what y'all do this time of year is winter canvassing. What exactly is winter canvassing?
Winter canvassing is when we go out, we focus specifically on downtown, but it is anytime the Metro Winter Shelter opens or the Metro Overflow Shelter, we go out and we basically just check on our neighbors. We offer people rides to the shelter if they would like a ride. And then if people aren't interested in going to the shelter, we give out supplies, blankets, sleeping bags, hand warmers, gloves, socks, snacks, all those good things. So it's kind of just our way of making sure that, one, people know about the shelter. Two, if they want to go to the shelter, they can get a ride there. Or, there's also a bus that will take people there for free. So sometimes people might not want to go in at, 7 or 8 o'clock when we're out canvassing. We're usually out till about 10. But the bus does run to the shelter until 11. So we kind of inform people about that. And then largely what we do is give out supplies just to try to keep people warm throughout the night.
And you lead trainings for people who want to join y'all in that canvassing. Do you want to train our listeners right now?
I'll give a brief overview because you attended our last winter canvassing training. And as you know, I can be long-winded. Allie and I like to yap because we're very passionate about it. But yeah, so basically the kind of the highlights of our training are this. We go over kind of the logistics, which is you'll sign up for winter canvassing. We can find it on our Facebook, on our Instagram, on our website. And this year we're using Hands on Nashville to do signups, which has been great. Hands on Nashville are great partners. Generally speaking, we try to post about a week out because that's kind of when we can see what's happening weather-wise for the next week. You can kind of pick your time, pick your day, sign up, and then, you'll get a follow-up email from us. We all meet downtown at the rescue mission. And from there, we break up into teams. We bring all the supplies. So we'll distribute the supplies to teams. And then each team will kind of have their own geographic area, which we'll provide maps for. But generally speaking, it is within, I don't know, a few mile radius of downtown. From there, teams do a combination of driving and walking. A lot of times, especially during the week, you can just pull your car over, put your hazards on if you see someone and get out and chat with them. So that's what we do pretty much from 7 to 10, a lot of nights, anytime the shelter is open. And, someone is always available in case of emergency. But that brings me to the next point of our winter canvassing training, which is we do try to educate people on the signs of frostbite and hypothermia because those are deadly. The extreme weather in the summer and the winter, they're both really deadly. But we've already had a couple deaths this winter in Nashville from people being outside. And, it's just a time of year where we can't be everywhere. Other organizations can't be everywhere. But winter canvassing, along with our outreach, is kind of us trying to do what we can to make sure people know like there are options to get inside.
Let's walk through the experience of helping someone. When volunteers encounter someone who's unhoused, what's the first step?
What I tell people, first of all, it's kind of a situation where, hey, you generally are going to be to some extent assuming things when you see someone. If you see someone with a lot of stuff, generally speaking, like that's going to be someone, unless it's a tourist waiting for an Uber or something, that's probably going to be someone experiencing homelessness because most of us don't just walk around with, all of our belongings on a cold winter day. My approach is usually just, to approach them in an open body language, friendly manner, and just say something like, hey, are you planning on staying outside tonight? And that's kind of the opener I like because, most people say either yes or I don't want to stay outside tonight. And then that kind of opens up the conversation for saying, well, are you, do you know about the shelter? Are you interested in going? And sometimes people don't want to go. Sometimes people have had traumatic incidents, not just in shelters, but, if they were incarcerated, if they've been in any type of like group home, like there are lots of reasons why some people don't want to go in. With Open Table, we very much respect people's autonomy. Even if it is dangerously cold, I am not going to tell someone they have to go into the shelter. I will tell people like, hey, the low tonight is 12 degrees because, people aren't checking. They don't have a way to necessarily always check the weather. But yeah, so we kind of just tell them their shelter options. We offer them a ride. And, some people may not want to ride. Some people want to stay out. Some people may be meeting up with friends or their partner who's at work later or something and don't want to go in right away. And so in that case, we try to let them know about the bus. But yeah, we kind of just check on people, ask their needs. A lot of times people don't have even a sleeping bag. And so in that case, we try to give them those types of things. And yeah, eventually, we're kind of at the time now where people are used to seeing us. People know about us. A lot of people remember us from all the years past and know the deal of what we're going to say to them. But yeah, it's just a good way to check on everyone.
We are back with Kelly Chien from Open Table, and she's been giving us their winter canvassing training so we can be ready to help our unhoused neighbors whenever the weather turns freezing. Kelly, can we pause for a second and walk through what are the shelter options in Nashville?
So the Mission is really our main shelter in town. We have, and that's year round. It is not operated by Metro. It is operated by a nonprofit, and that is basically their whole nonprofit is the Men's Rescue Mission, which is downtown off Lafayette Street. And then there's the Women's Rescue Mission campus, which is recently renovated, and that is off Rosa Parks Boulevard, kind of right as you enter Germantown. So those two options, they do have quite a bit of capacity and they are good options, but I don't think pets can go there. People on the registry can't go there. And some people may have had incidents there over the years where they may not be able to return. So there are some barriers to consider with those two. So Metro is intended to be a very low barrier shelter where anyone who needs to get in from outside can go. They can take pets. Their pets will be crated. Couples can go there. And our Office of Homeless Services, I believe this year they're partnering with like the health department, and they work with Metro Social Services, some other groups, to try to, have more capacity there. And they have like some healthcare folks there. And everyone gets their own cot there. Everyone gets a meal, and then in the morning, everyone get a ride back downtown on a WeGo bus. But yeah, it's supposed to be a really low barrier shelter, and especially if people haven't lived here for a long time, they aren't aware of it. So it's kind of a good education opportunity, as well as something tangible we can do to make sure people are okay throughout the night.
It's only open at night.
Yes, it's only open at night. That's the other thing is, while the efforts of the Mission and Metro with the overflow shelter are great, they do make adjustments in like a snowstorm or in extremely cold weather, but they are not open during the day. So that's another thing, is there are not a ton of options for people who may not be able to go to the Mission during the day. And we need more resources for sure. A place a lot of people used to go is the downtown library. And I will not get into all that right now, but that's not open right now. So, there really are very few options for people to get inside during the day as well.
Why can't the Metro shelter stay open all day?
If I were to guess, I would guess it's probably a capacity issue. I've never explicitly asked that question, but it is with, again, some additional staff that they hire and from other departments, but it is largely staffed by employees of Office of Homeless Services. And, during the day, they are managing our continuum of care with all of our nonprofit partners, and they're doing their own outreach and housing stuff. So I think that the answer would probably be it's a capacity issue to keep it open 24/7.
Okay, now back to canvassing training. How much time do you encourage volunteers to spend with these neighbors? Can they sit and have long conversations, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm of the belief that, like, of course, I want to get everyone who is downtown, who we encounter, what they need. But also, for me, it is very much an experience where I will absolutely take the time and stand and talk with someone for 10, 15, 20 minutes if needed. Because a lot of times our neighbors living outside, they do not get that. A lot of times they are either seen as a problem to be cleared away, or someone who is not treated as human. And so it's, yes, we want to get everyone inside if they want to get inside. Yes, we want to get everyone supplies, but I also think we have a lot to learn from people's experiences. And sometimes people just need a listening ear. And so, if people are out and they get in a long conversation, I am very happy for them to do that.
Are there any stories or moments from recent winters that have really stuck with you?
One person comes to mind. I mean, there are so many people, who I know and love, and there are so many hard stories, but one in particular is a friend who, he's a double amputee. And last winter, I saw him pretty much every single night I was out last winter. And even nights I wasn't out, other volunteers, came to know him and would say, "Hey, we saw him out tonight. He asked about you." And he is a friend, but he is also a really good example of someone who, our systems have just absolutely failed him. He is someone who was constantly moved along from different places downtown. He'd go to the hospital, he'd be discharged from the hospital, he'd be back on the streets. And speaking of how long do you encourage people to spend with someone, I spent so much time with him last winter, and so did some of our other very dedicated volunteers and staff. We quite literally had to push him downtown from spot to spot. We had a nurse with us at one point who was doing wound care, and we were told he had to move while doing wound care on a double amputee. And it's just, it's one of those things where we just want, a lot of times in society, like, we just want the problem to go away. And when we see the problem as a human, that's when we get into a place where we have situations where a man can't even get medical attention on a downtown street without being told to move along when he is surrounded by people who are just trying to help him and take care of him. So he is someone I think about a lot. I pushed him around a lot of downtown last year, and we always do what we can for people, but it takes a long time to get into housing, especially when you have such high needs, right? Like you're disabled, you need pretty regular medical attention. He is just someone who I think about a lot.
Mm.
I haven't seen him yet this winter, and I don't know what that means. That could mean a lot of things. There's a very slim chance maybe he got into housing with another organization, and that would be great. That would be best case scenario. But I'm not sure where he is, and I've been looking for him every night, and I hope I see him this weekend.
What have you witnessed downtown between the clash of tourists and our unhoused neighbors?
So I haven't seen so much as like actual tourists themselves, but I would say kind of like our tourism industry. I know most locals do not go downtown a lot. And winter, I am downtown all the time at night. But other than that, I am not downtown. But, every single bar has its own private security. Then there are state troopers down there. There is a large MMPD presence down there. And there's also the private police force and the ambassadors that Nashville Downtown Partnership has.
It sounds like so much.
It is a lot. I think, honestly, most people who live here would be shocked if they went downtown on a Friday or Saturday night, especially, and saw what a heavy police and, otherwise affiliated security were downtown. I will say that I've had good experience with tourists where, they see me when they're canvassing or me talking to someone. And, sometimes people will just walk up to me or them and hand them money, because that's what they can do in that moment. So not to say it doesn't happen, but I haven't seen a clash between like individual tourists and people experiencing homelessness. I think people who visit here know that this is a problem far beyond Nashville, and a lot of people see similar things in their hometown. But there's definitely a clash between the tourism industry and people experiencing homelessness. Yes.
Gotcha. We know that our unhoused neighbors aren't just staying downtown. So
Yep.
Why is that area the center of your work?
So part of the reason it is the center of our work is because, some people who arrive in Nashville who, came here for whatever reason. I've met people who came here because they had family here, and then, something didn't work out. And so now they live here. That is kind of where a lot of people, especially who aren't as familiar, go, because there are tourists and there are places that they can maybe get some money, get some food. Also, if people arrived here on a Greyhound bus, the Greyhound station is downtown. So a few reasons in that sense. But I would also say homelessness in our city and other cities, it's just so broad that we kind of have to pick a focus area. I would love if we had winter canvassing all over the city, but it's simply not sustainable with the capacity we have right now. We are a very small organization, but even bigger organizations, as we push people further and further out of sight, it is harder and harder to find people once you get out of downtown. And so it's just not something that logistically is possible without a mass of people who are really dedicated to it. So we do focus downtown, but I mean, it's an effort that's needed everywhere in the entire city, I would say. I would love for us to get there one day.
My pitch to listeners at home is please volunteer for winter canvassing. I did it last year. I'm planning on doing it a lot more this year, but I know that for some people, maybe canvassing doesn't feel right for them. Open Table has an Amazon wish list. We will put that in our show notes today. But what's on it, Kelly, and what items do you need most donated?
Yes. So this is also a good question for me because I'm also our in-kind donations coordinator. So I kind of see everything come in and I pack it up for canvassing and then I take it out. So I am very aware of, when we are low on things. I would say our community keeps us really well stocked. Nash Severe Weather has posted about us. You all have posted about us, and a lot of folks send in items. But we just go through so much in a long cold stretch. And right now we could always use blankets and sleeping bags. Those are the two main things. We're pretty well stocked on other items, but those are just things that almost every single person we come into contact needs. And especially if a blanket or a sleeping bag gets wet, it kind of becomes a one-time use thing, which is really unfortunate. But like, if people don't have access to laundry and a way to dry it, a wet, freezing cold sleeping bag is not really worth anything. So yeah, I would say those are kind of the two biggest needs for sure.
Mm-hmm. What can Nashvillians do daily on their own to help during these cold months?
I love this question. So a few things. One thing is, I would say if you're a part of an organization or a bigger group, or even just your group of friends, host a supply drive, gather supplies. If your friends are coming over for dinner, just say, hey, bring any like cold weather stuff or things on this list, which the list is, all over our social media. And there's also a little winter graphic on our social media of our most needed items. But the other thing is, I mean, we all unfortunately drive around town all the time. And so things that I like to keep with me, just even when I'm not working, I like to keep like a 10 pack at least of hand warmers in my car, case of protein shakes. If you have any like pairs of socks or gloves, those are great. If you have blankets or sleeping bags on your own, I mean, it is great to get stuff to us, but it is also really important, I think, that if you have stuff in your car and you're bringing it to us and you pass 5 people experiencing homelessness and you have 5 blankets, just give them to the people you pass. We need supplies, we want supplies, but I think also it's just we have so many people experiencing homelessness that even just doing what you can on your own it's just as important as giving supplies to us, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And then zooming out a bit, what does Open Table Nashville do year round beyond the winter emergency work?
That's a big question. So we do outreach, which does in a way look similar to winter canvassing, right? We're maybe not giving rides to a shelter, but we are doing outreach, giving people supplies. Our outreach team is constantly, helping people with SNAP recertifications and Section 8 applications, other housing applications, disability, getting an ID, all the things that kind of like need to line up in order for someone to get into housing, and then actually housing them. And then the last thing is our advocacy team does a lot around policy, both pushing good policy and fighting harmful policy at both the state legislature and our local metro council. And so, yeah, we try to address the people's immediate needs, but also help people get into housing and also address the root causes of why people are homeless to begin with. Because, outreach and housing people is great, but if we aren't changing anything about why that is the situation people are in from a legislative and policy level, we're kind of just on an endless hamster wheel. And so we try to kind of attack it from all angles.
Well, as a service provider here, there have been allegations expressed by some local leaders that Open Table doesn't want to solve the issue of homelessness in our city because you put yourselves out of business. What's your response to that?
I would say that pretty frequently in our office we talk about how we hope one day none of us have jobs working at Open Table, because that means that no one is experiencing homelessness anymore. And we genuinely mean that. Open Table isn't the only job any of us could get. And I think if people saw the behind the scenes of what we do and how heavy it is and what our neighbors on the street go through, I think they would very much understand that none of us want to work at Open Table one day. All of us want for there to not be a need for Open Table or any homeless outreach organization. That is always the goal every day.
Well, Kelly, I think many of our listeners know all the work that you do. It's just so much that you're showing up for every single day. But I know sometimes people can feel like if they can't go all in like yourself, they're just not going to do it. It's not enough, So what would you say to them?
What I would say is, I often get people, who don't have time, or moms who have kids and feel like they can't. They're like, I can't do all the things you do. No one needs to do the things that I do. We all have a role to play, in my opinion. If you don't have time to give, but you have money to give, order supplies. You don't have capacity to come out canvassing, but you can bring us blankets that you have in your closet. Like you don't have time to bring me blankets. Well, you're going to be in your car anyways. Throw blankets in your car and give them to people that you see. There is a role for every single person. And from an advocacy and policy stance, like things that take hardly any time or money, or when we have a call to action, email your council members, repost about the things. There's so many small things that people can do. And so I never want anyone to feel like, well, I can't dedicate that much time or go all in. Because, there's a cost to going all in. And a lot of people have so much going on and the world is hard. But I think like there is something every single person can do, regardless of your capacity, regardless of how much money you have. There is something you can do. And it's just taking care of our neighbors. And even if you can only take care of one person in your neighborhood, that is amazing. And that is important and that is needed.
All right, listeners, please go check out opentablenashville.org. Get involved as much as you can. And Kelly, thank you.
Thank you, Marie.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Nashville neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell your friends? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Toodles!